Well, hi there, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Kareth, and I've got another meal in a jar recipe for you. This one is for chicken and dressing, and I'm including the gravy to go with it. I'm super excited to bring it to you today because I think it's perfect for this time of year, but also because last year I filmed a really long video, and I think there were a total of 6 recipes in there of just a way to make Thanksgiving dinner from meals in jars. And it is a wonderful compilation of recipes, a great video. I'll link that below. But it is quite time consuming, and you had to kind of make the cornbread and the rolls the night before and then make the chicken and dressing using those things. This recipe is much simpler. It's like a shortcut recipe for that, but it still has the same yummy flavors. So I'm going to cheat and use some croutons or some bread cubes or crackers, something like that for the bread. I am making a homemade cornbread mix, but it doesn't have to get cooked beforehand. You can cook the chicken and the veg in the cornbread. So let me show you how I put it together. In a quart-sized jar, you put a heaping cup of the diced chicken in the bottom. And then this recipe is based on my grandmother's recipe. And she always used, in her turkey and dressing, she used turkey stock and milk to flavor her dressing. And so I've included some milk powder, as well as some onions and celery. My grandma always sauteed those in butter, but I'm going to skip that part. These are the seasonings that she used in her dressing. So to me, these say Thanksgiving, sage, and poultry seasoning, and then salt and pepper. You can use whatever you like, including thyme, rosemary, whatever says Thanksgiving to you, include those seasonings in there. Now, my grandma didn't include the Granny Smith apples or the cranberries, but I just really like those flavors. This dressing is very savory, and it's nice every once in a while just to have a pop of something kind of tart and sweet. So I love the addition of those things in there. And there's room for about a cup's worth of some sort of bread cube. You can use stuffing cubes, melba toast, you could use saltines, croutons here, but some sort of shelf-stable bread is what we're going to use in place of like the homemade rolls that I did last year. My grandma always used just sliced sandwich bread, but that is going to take the place of that because they are shelf-stable. So there's the first jar, and in the second jar, it's a pint-sized jar, I'm going to put basically what it is the cornbread mix recipe, and then we'll include the gravy at the top because there's room in the jar. The recipe that I'm showing you today, I'm just using all-purpose flour, and this is not gluten-free. The recipe from last year, everything was gluten-free. The cornbread, the rolls, even the gravy. So if you need gluten-free, go ahead and check out my recipe from last year. But this year's recipe is just with regular all-purpose flour. But I am adding some extra eggs in here because my grandma always put eggs in her dressing, and I'm going to just include it here in this jar because everything is going to get mixed together in the end and it will cook together. All right, so there's room at the top of this jar for the gravy mix. You need to put it in a little snack-sized baggie, and I will show you how to make that at the end of the video. It's just the perfect amount. All right, so here are the jars that you could make in advance and store on your pantry shelf. And aren't they beautiful? Just look at those layers. So pretty. These are portable, so if you're going somewhere for Thanksgiving and you want to bring this with you, this would be ideal. I mean, I have a friend staying at an Airbnb, like a little cabin in the woods. I think this would be perfect for that kind of Thanksgiving. When you're ready to make this, just set aside that little baggie of bread cubes or croutons and add really hot water to the quart-sized jar. You're going to need to add about 1.5 cups of very, very hot water. And what that is going to do is rehydrate all the vegetables, the apples, the cranberries, and that chicken before you add it to the cornbread. And that's what you really need to do. You can't put the chicken in the oven before it's completely refreshed, or else it'll just burn and dry out. And set that to the side. It needs about 10 or 15 minutes to rehydrate. All right, meanwhile, let's work on the other jar. Set that baggie to the side, the baggie of gravy mix, and empty the contents of the cornbread mix into a large bowl. And you'll need to stir that to combine those ingredients. Then you're going to add somewhere around 1/2 cup plus maybe 2 tablespoons of water, something like that. That might be around 2/3 of a cup of water. Give that a stir. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, go ahead and give your chicken mixture a stir. And you can actually taste a cube of chicken and just make sure they're completely rehydrated, no crunch left whatsoever. Then you can add the chicken mix to the cornbread mix. And now it's time to rehydrate those croutons or whatever you're using, saltines, the cubed stuffing mix, melba toast, whatever you're going to use there. But I don't really like to rehydrate those along with the chicken, just because if you let that sit in hot water for 15 minutes, it'd be complete mush. So just maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes in just tap water, and it will soften the bread cubes enough to where you can add them to the chicken mixture. And then everything gets combined and stirred together, and that is what you're going to bake at 375 for about an hour. This is the chicken and dressing mixture. And basically that cornbread is just going to bake with the chicken in it, with the veggies in it, with the bread in it. So this really looks like what my grandmother would put in her oven. You can give it a test for seasonings. I am saying the melted butter is optional. I really love it. I've had it both ways. It's good without the butter, but I like the butter. It adds a little bit of richness, and it reminds me of how my grandma used to make her dressing. That right there is a 1.5 quart casserole dish that I just sprayed with some cooking spray, and you can fit everything in there. You'll want to cover the casserole before you cook it, and you need to bake this covered for about 45 minutes at 375, and then you'll uncover it and bake it for another 15 minutes, and the top will get nice and golden brown. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a nice kind of medium brown on the exterior, and it's just a beautiful little dressing. And it needs to cool for a bit, and that's perfect because you need to make your gravy. So you'll just get a small saucepan and melt about 2.5 tablespoons of butter in there. And then you can add the little baggie of gravy ingredients. Whisk that flour into the butter. This is where most people go wrong. They just don't toast their flour enough. You need to toast that flour because raw flour is not tasty. But toasted flour is wonderful. It's really nice and nutty. And then you can add the water. You'll add about 1 cup, depending on how thick you like your gravy. And if you did include the cornstarch in there, you might need to add a little bit more than 1 cup of water. But whisk it constantly. Don't leave. Just stick around and give it a whisk. You don't want lumps in your gravy. It doesn't take long at all. And it's a wonderful texture, nice and smooth and shiny. And it's just perfect for this chicken and dressing. It's super yummy. When I tasted mine, I didn't add a thing. I thought it tasted perfect. It was so delicious. And now your chicken and dressing is ready to serve up. And I did make some instant mashed potatoes. I didn't film it because all I did was boil water and add instant mashed potatoes. And I opened a can of green beans. And then that's a can of cranberry sauce that I had opened. So all of that is just super simple, and it's a gorgeous meal. Last year, I showed you how you can make fresh cranberry sauce from the Thrive Life freeze-dried cranberries. So I will include that video link below and you can check that recipe out. And that right there, that's one of my mini pumpkin pies. I just released that video over the weekend, so I'll include that video link as well. But isn't that a beautiful Thanksgiving meal? And it required very little effort. And it's ready in, just over an hour. But y'all, it's so delicious. Really, really good. I'm really excited to bring this recipe to you today because not only is it tasty, but it's comforting and it's traditional and it's pretty quick and easy for something that I would consider to be a delicious Thanksgiving meal. The inside of the dressing is nice and moist. The outside is kind of crusty. I think that's just perfect. I think y'all are gonna really like this one. I hope you give it a try, and please let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll include the full recipe as well as my shopping link in the description box below this video. I will also include my website where you can pick up a copy of my new ebook. I've got a cookbook with over 90 recipes for meals in jars in there. Oh, and by the way, Thrive Life is going to have a big Black Friday sale this year. So I'm going to be out of town for the next week, but I'm still going to try and put out a video to let y'all know what all to expect in the sale. It's the biggest sale of the year. It's a great time to pick up some food, so don't miss out on that. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. I am thankful for you. Until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.